if you escape from the computer analogy, then you say, oh, maybe this is integral part of the design, that the core is part of the signaling for some good reason. And some good reason that we came across with is neuroprotection.
Yeah.
Most of these core metabolites are neuroprotective.
I see. Most of the core metabolites are neuroprotective. Maybe we'll circle back to that. Another thing I want to give people here conceptually is, okay, so we talk about the core metabolism that's going to be common to all cells, because all cells need a metabolism. They all need to do these energy transformations to do whatever it is they're doing, whether or not they're neurons or some other cell. But then there's signaling between cells. All cells need to talk to other cells around them, or maybe even far away from them. Neurons would be a great example, right? We've got a lot of neurons. A lot of them reach pretty far away and signal. They literally release chemicals. They signal in different ways to other cells. And so I guess classically you would have thought like, okay, the core metabolic machinery, this is an intracellular thing. It's inside of this cell, and this cell will have its own metabolic machinery that uses just to make its own fuel to power all of these intercellular signaling molecules that it will have to do its job as a neuron, say, and then use those to communicate and do stuff between cells. And these two things, you could have thought, these two things are going to be completely separate and segregated. They're going to be thermodynamically insulated from each other. But what you're starting to get to already is that a lot of the components of that core metabolism, that's the pieces that are common to all cell types, they actually get used in signaling between cells, even for things like neurons. So, as you stated, glutamate is a pretty what we think of as a simple or primitive molecule, maybe, but it's used as an intracellular signal by neurons. So it's not just that the signaling and the information processing and communication stuff relies on these functionally specialized or special cell type specific molecules. They do use some of those molecules, but they also use molecules that are the core metabolites of the stuff that's sort of in every cell.
Yeah, correct. And it is some of them, right? It's not all of them. So right. From glucose gets into the cell and gets trapped as a glucose phosphate. This negative charge traps the glucose in the cell. And then you have several phosphorylated compounds until you have one that is not, which is pyruvate. And pyruvate is connected with lactate, which amplifies whatever change in pyruvate concentration there is. But lactate can move freely between cells through very abundant monocarboxylate transporters. So there you have a way in which the core becomes leaky on purpose, because this molecule lactate doesn't have a phosphate. And a lactate moves out of the cell, moves between cells, moves away. When you do exercise, your lactate levels can go up to, say, 6-10 millimolar. And we know now that lactate enters the brain and changes the lactylation state of mitochondrial protein. So your muscle is signaling your brain in real time as you do the exercise.
Right.
So the meaning of those signal, we don't know yet, because this is something very new. Lactylation was discovered 2 or 3 years ago. And lactate is one of them.